Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com, and it is Monday. We're in the middle of May Day out there, and I got to tell you, the madness continuing everywhere. First, it started last night. The Suns got absolutely demolished. If you watch any of that stuff, the lone bright spot in Arizona sports, they're out. It was an embarrassing performance, nonetheless. It is really starting to get ugly out there. This morning, driving to work, gas now here in Arizona in most stations, the cheapest gas is now going to start with a 5. The station here near the office, which outside of going to Costco, outside of that, is one of the cheapest places in my route of things. They were at $4.90. Unleaded gas futures this morning. Now, remember, last week we were talking about $3.80, $3.90. We're at $4 wholesale. And again, remember, with crack spreads and all that we've talked about, we're going to have gas prices well over $5 here. So wherever you are, you're going to start noticing that gas prices, new all-time record highs. Get used to that. We're going to see that through Memorial Day. I think we'll get a little reprieve in June. Unfortunately, I think the highest prices, Jason, aren't going to happen until July and August.
Yeah, I mean, just if you're in northern Colorado and whatever average gas your miles per gallon is, you're spending $15 if you have to go down to Denver for something to come back. I mean, it's incredible, Joe. $15 just to drive to Denver and back.
And depending on what you're driving, if it's in a diesel vehicle,
it's way worse.
More than that.
It's going to be way worse.
Right. It only gets worse than that. I try not to think of it that way. I'm like, man, okay, let's see. It takes me 2 gallons to get to work, 2 gallons to get home from work. Oh, my Lord, right? Then you start doing the math. Not to be outdone, wheat futures. We had some developments already. Wheat futures already at all-time highs. It got worse over the weekend. India announced that they will no longer allow for wheat exports to preserve food security in that country. Just to give you an idea, Russia, Ukraine, India now, all of them were in the top 10 wheat exporters in the world. So it has driven the price skyrocket. We're like at $13, $14 a bushel, and it's only getting worse. My wife and I try not to go anymore because I just get upset. But we went to the store yesterday to the Fry's, which is Kroger, Kroger's. I forget who it is in Colorado, Jason.
King Supers.
King Super in Colorado, Fry's here in Arizona. That's the other thing. It's so funny is you think they're different. Now, they're all owned by the same people. So Kroger, wow. The price of eggs, incredible. By the way, that went up again this morning, skyrocketing as bird flu continues to decimate the crops. U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, a dozen eggs jumped 23% in April from March, and I'm going to tell you right now, May, it's even worse. Egg prices are up, I think, 50% from the beginning of the year. 37 million chickens and turkeys have been slaughtered, which is about 10% of the total U.S. bird flock, and it's shaping up to be the worst bird flu outbreak ever. And again, all these perfect little storms, Jason, and remember, we keep circling October. Why October? Why do I keep talking October? Well, there's a bunch of factors. Number one, that's going to be when the harvest is in, right? All the main crops by October have come out, and already the USDA cannot lower forecasts fast enough. Plus any other factors, the amount of inflation that's coming, and by that time, I'm assuming China's going to be reopened. Jason, I think we're going to be staring down the gun of the worst inflation this country's ever seen. Ben Bernanke, really, honestly, this is another clown that we've had at the Fed. Remember his big mistake at the Fed? When housing was just a subprime problem, and oh no, we don't see any, there's no, maybe there's a little bit of froth in it, it's fine. August of 07, when interest, think about this, the Fed's funds rate, August 07, 5.25. Do you imagine what the stock market would be at if we were at 5.25 instead of 0.75%? But I digress. He was out over the weekend. I think he's getting ready to come out with a book, and I think that's why I had to see his ugly face again, because I'm beautiful. He is not. But he was out saying that it was a mistake. Yes, Jay Powell made a mistake with his inflation call, and that the Federal Reserve should have been raising rates earlier, Jason.
Yeah, I agree with all that, Joe, but I'll say this. The one question I think the audience was asking when you went to Kroger was, did you see any baby formula there?
Well, you know what? I did not go down that aisle this time. So I can't, I'm going to say it wasn't there, but I can't confirm it. I should have. I didn't look. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason this morning. And so many things to talk about. Ben Bernanke. The one thing I will say, just like Alan Greenspan, once they kind of leave the foray, they start telling the truth about things. When it comes to inflation, Ben Bernanke said that, yes, the Fed has made a mistake with its transitory comments and missed the window of opportunity to tighten. I mean, these are dramatic things that he's saying. They missed the window. What he's trying to tell you is, there's no way out here. One of the reasons they wanted in not fighting inflation, even though that's their job, was they didn't want to shock the market. And that's a real polite way of saying, well, we just didn't want Wall Street to go down. We wanted all of our buddies, all of our billionaire buddies, to be happy with us. And again, they have these mandates. And Jason, the mandates are pretty clear, right? Stable prices, which I guess stable to them is just a little bit of devaluation every year. And full employment. Well, we've been at full employment for a long time. I mean, the unemployment rate's been below 5% for, pretty much right around the time Trump was coming out of office and again, the only reason why it got high to begin was he told people he couldn't go to work, right? And really, should that even have counted, since we were paying them so much money not to work? Shouldn't have mattered to begin with. But once again, saving Wall Street is not part of their mandate, but yet, Jason, we tend to find out the vast majority of these quote-unquote mistakes after the fact are really for that reason.
That's right, Joe, because those big, huge conglomerate companies, they work hand in hand. They work together, Joe, so you got to protect each other. It's not, they don't worry about the average worker. They worry about how the system, you say how many times the system has to be protected, and big, huge companies are a big, huge part of the system now. And it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse, Joe. I mean, this is the way it's been. And you say he missed the window. They missed the window. I don't know, man. I think they threw the entire U.S. economy right out the window, Joe, because it looks really awful. Every day it's like a slow motion crash, right?
Yeah, and again, I think it's something where all of these guys, we always pick from the same litter. If you think about it, we had Greenspan for a really long time. He was the maestro, if you will. Of course, really, what Greenspan, what history will end up telling us, he was just very fortunate in what they did with Social Security. The only reason why there's no money in Social Security is they spent it all, and then got to lie about it, through a paperwork gimmick, right? That led us to make the deficits appear much smaller than what they were. If you go back during, remember the Clinton years. There's a few years we had a budget surplus. We had a paper surplus, a fake paper surplus. But even then, Greenspan had Bernanke serving under him. Bernanke had Yellen serving under him. Yellen and Jay Powell served under Yellen, Bernanke, and Greenspan. I mean, we're just picking people of the same cloth over and over and over again, Jason, and somehow expecting to get different results.
Yeah, Greenspan's the one, recent Fed chief that sort of left right before a disaster happened. So now they leave after the disaster, so the new guy can be the hero. I think that's where they started formulating that plan, is because Greenspan left, and then Bernanke came in, and the whole thing blew up. That became his emergency, and I think things are getting so bad that now they have to have it crash on the guy that's in charge, and then bring the new guy in as the hero to so-called fix it. But I don't know, Joe. It's we've talked about the person underneath Jerome Powell. Man, she looks like she can turn a disaster and make it worse.
Yeah, we're talking about Lael Brainerd. She's going to be next, and I think all of us are going to see things that that I hate to say. It was like, man, I never really thought I'd be saying this on the air, but all of that coming. And again, last week we had Joey here, and he talked a little bit about the cryptocurrencies, and we heard from Coinbase, the exchange here, and it doesn't matter what exchange. I think what I'm being told anyway is a lot of people have their crypto held at these exchanges because the passwords are much simpler. I don't know, but this is what I'm being told. And, of course, obviously being able to do transactions, converting it into dollars to buy things is much easier. But what we learned is, hey, if the exchange goes under, you lose all of your crypto. And people are lulled into this false sense of security, Jason, that here in the United States somehow we're immune to this. And I bring it up. We have a commercial that runs on 1360 in Colorado where I explain that the courts, what banking law really is. Banking law is very similar to what's happening or potentially could happen to you in crypto. It just is a matter of whether or not they want to do it. We have another commercial about Social Security. Now, Social Security is a U.S. thing, so that's actually been settled by the Supreme Court, right? The Supreme Court ruled, hey, your Social Security money, think about this. Think about if you're, 60. And let's just say you had started working since you were 20. Well, that means the government has taken part of your paycheck every single week, week after week for 40 years. Well, let's just say, unfortunately, you passed away and you never got to use that money, which is, technically you think they want you to believe it's yours. Well, the Supreme Court ruled, hey, those are not property rights. In other words, you don't get to give it to somebody else if you don't use it. Matter of fact, the Supreme Court went a step further and said not only are they not property rights, you know what? in our view, it's really just a tax. So technically, the government doesn't have to pay you at all, which was the case back in the McCarthy era, where a person that had immigrated to the United States, had been paying into the Social Security system for almost 20 years. He got deported because he was, quote unquote, a communist. So he sued. And this was part of the Supreme Court's ruling that, hey, you know what? We think it's a tax. If the government pays you, great. If they don't pay you, they don't have to. You're not entitled to anything. Well, when it comes to your savings, a lot of people have this misconception that, well, we've got an FDIC insurance, which now stands at $250,000. And isn't it ironic during the financial crisis, Jason, that they jumped that number to $250,000? I want to say it was $100,000. Now they say $250,000. They could tell us $1 million. I don't know why they don't. Why don't you just say $1 million? Because they already know they don't have the money to actually pay it. Now they could pay Schmuckatelli Bank, right, in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. If that bank goes under, they got it. But most people have their money, and we've said it here over and over and over again. 90% of all deposits are in the 10 largest banks of this country. And it actually that's an old number, right? That's like 3 or 4 years old now. So it could be 91, 92% by now. But so people know, first of all, the law that determined whether or not you own your money or not was actually not from the United States. It was a court case in England, which then got adapted into the banking laws of the new world, if you will. And it all had to do with actually who owns the money and how it really works. There's a contract involved. And when you sign up for a bank and you sign here and initial here and click OK and do essentially you're doing a couple of things. Number one, you're agreeing that you're going to give ownership of your money to the bank. That's the first thing you're agreeing to. Now, the bank is agreeing to make that money available to you when you request it. Of course, that's only valid unless there is some form of emergency where they just decide, hey, we're not going to let you do things a la Greece. But then they go a step further and they want you to believe that your money, hey, we have this FDIC. Right? It's insured for $250,000, right? You know, insurance sounds good. And of course, we know they don't have anywhere close, they don't even have $150 billion in this fund, by the way, just so you know. I mean, just pick a bank, JP Morgan. What do they got? $2 trillion of insured deposits. See, the math just doesn't work because they know inside of this, at any point in time, the rules already exist. And this is the point I think a lot of people get upset about. Because, Jason, they believe that there's been some big vote in Congress and that they would be aware of these things. And that's really not how it works. Most of this is regulated through these entities inside the government. Here's the greatest example. The new Ministry of Truth that was formed under the Department of Homeland Security. There is no vote in Congress on that. The same thing happens here when it comes to your bank accounts. And especially now after, this is the part that really stings, after the financial crisis, people got mad because they bailed out all of the banks. And I want everyone to understand They bailed them all out and really waited to the biggest of the big and then said, okay, we got to step in. And I'm not even arguing whether or not that was the right thing or the wrong thing to do. They bailed them all out. And then they said, you know what, man, that really put our government at risk. Because it was getting so bad, this thing would have been, the bailout would have been so massive that they decided to strengthen these little rules that you don't know anything about. That essentially now when these banks go under, when it happens again, because it's going to happen again, because they didn't fix it. The solution was make banks small enough to where they weren't going to be a risk to one another. That didn't happen. Instead, now, when these banks go under the next time, there's not going to be a bailout. Instead, there's going to be a board. We're going to talk about what this board is going to do and what it means to your bank account and how similar is your bank account to what happened with the crypto markets last week. We'll talk about that next. 800-951-0592. And today we're kind of talking about, last week, what brought this up? You can go out to, I want to give credit here, bombthrower.com if you want to find out more information. But we were talking last week about crypto. And crypto had a tough week, and Coinbase, which is the largest server here in the by far in the U.S., their CEO, after their horrible earnings, said, hey, by the way, if we go bankrupt, you don't get nothing. So, and I give the guy credit. At least he told the truth. Said, hey, all the money in your wallet, that's going to be gone. But is that really any different than our bank accounts? And one of the things that I want to point, just in the last year or two, think about this. In Canada, having the wrong political view could get your bank account seized, right? Remember what they did to the truckers there? Just no court. They didn't go to court. No judge ruled. The government just told the bank, here's the names, freeze their accounts, and guess what? The bank did it. How about what we're doing with Russia? We're just out there seizing foreign reserves of sovereign nations. Those are facts. European banks, and really probably most banks, are freezing the assets, right, of what they're calling the Russian oligarchs. Well, we don't like your country. We don't like the president. You make money in that country, we're going to seize your accounts. And again, how much further of a reach is it to be like they're going to do the same thing here? Of course they are. This is something where when you look, especially just going back from the financial crisis, Jason, they used that crisis and really go back to 9/11 even. Really, the Patriot Act really started a lot of this, right? Remember, if you got more than $10,000, you're a terrorist, right? You're a drug dealer. You name it. You're just an all-around bad person. And every piece of legislation after that has become another attack, another reason why, hey, we've changed the laws that most Americans wouldn't believe to be true, but simply are. Which is the government tells the bank to freeze your account, Jason, they're going to freeze it.
Yeah, even things that were considered normal or secure are becoming less normal, less secure. I mean, neutral countries, Joe, like Switzerland, suddenly are no longer neutral. They're going to start doing the same thing. Hey, wasn't that one of the places you could keep safe gold, keep safe monies, accounts, because they were neutral. So they're also showing that there's very few places to go hide from this thing, Joe. They're showing you that there's nowhere you can go to escape this system. You're just going to have to give up your privacy, and you're going to give up your control of your assets. You're going to have to do what we want you to do, Joe. It's every single day. The baby formula thing to me, Joe, with that company, what was it, Abbott, that shut down just conveniently at that time, makes me feel like they're just testing to see how people react when something very, very important is out. 'Cause, I mean, if toilet paper is short, Joe, what do? You go to Kleenex, right? Or you go to some other paper. If beef was suddenly short, you go to pork, right? There are so-called options. But with the baby formula thing, Joe, I think they're really testing. And then, well, what do you do? How many miles will a mom drive to get the baby formula? They're seeing, as they slowly push us into a more of an emergency situation coming in the coming months, how are people going to react? How bad is it going to get? I think the decision makers are scared to death that when this thing goes, that the revolt may be something more they can handle, Joe.
Yeah, and again, I'll use coronavirus, another great example. Look at what they were able to accomplish. Don't go to work. Don't open your doors. And by and large, that's what companies did. They said, okay, nope, nobody come to work today. If you weren't essential, don't go to work. Right? You have to be vaccinated or you have to wear a mask to go to work. And guess what? That's what happened. Right? And again, if everyone had just stuck together and said that ain't happening, right? But too many people are willing to go along, and now already the laws have already been changed. I don't think most people wanted to believe, right? Dodd-Frank, right? That was Congress's answer to too big to fail. Most people made an assumption, wrongly by the way, that would fix the problem. And of course I say it all the time. The solution was right in the title. Too big. Too big. Well, what's the solution to too big? Make it smaller. Easy. Right? And just go back, listen. Too big. Think about how quickly they broke it. They actually didn't get rid of those laws because there was laws going back to the Great Depression that prevented banks from being so big. I don't know about Colorado, but here in Arizona, everyone remember Valley National Bank? Which then became Bank One, which is now, I don't know, it's either Citi or JP Morgan, one of the two, right? They're just gone. We've lost almost 75% of our banks in the last 25, 30 years. They're gone, gobbled up, because they changed the laws. The simple solution was change them back. Make them small again. Nope, they didn't want to do that. Instead, what they did is they said the depositors will pay. Just like it used to be. Listen, in 1933, they shut the bank. Banks were closed. You're not getting in. And when the banks reopen, and Jason will tell you because he's a history buff, over 50% of the banks never reopened. Jason, what happened to those people's money?
They never got it, They never got it. Things were bad.
Gone.
Things were bad. Even the insurance companies.
Gone.
Insurance companies were giving people IOUs. Oh well, you're insured, but we got to wait till enough people.
Well, and again, this is what you're going to get this time. Quite honestly, when this happens, they've got it all planned out. Well, you know what? We've noticed that you've had 100,000, 200, pick the number, right? Anything over 250, gone. So if you learn nothing else from me, if you never buy an ounce of gold from me, at least be smart enough not to have more than 250,000. But let's talk about that when we return. 800-951-0592. So we're talking about, is our money really safe? And here's the sad part. In most of these, and I only can talk about the ones I go to. So the bank I go to, they're all young people in there. The branch manager usually is somebody in their mid-20s. I know more about banking than he does. I mean, that's just the sad reality. But here's what it really is. And again, I've given you real live examples. The government now, because of the way laws are written, can go in and basically claim an emergency and lock up your accounts, period. Who knows? You made a donation to the wrong thing. Well, I supported the truckers' right to protest, or maybe you're going to give it to the Amazon workers when they all walk out down the road. I don't know, whatever it may be. Right? You say you're part of MAGA, or you wrote a Facebook post that we deem to be unacceptable or dangerous. It'll be locked up. But for most people, outside of that, crazy extremist thing, which really should be, right? That should be ridiculous, but it's the truth. That's what's happening right now. And with the digital currency, it's going to be even worse. But how they have the law written now, and this is just my belief, on if you have less than $10,000, I don't think they're going to do anything to you. I don't think. Don't quote me. They can, but I don't think that they will. Anything over that. And why 10,000? Because that just seems to be right, Jason. In every piece of legislation they write about money, seems like $10,000, right? Well, I guess the last I remember, Janet Yellen, she wanted the IRS to report anybody that bought anything over $600. So maybe I'm wrong on the 10,000.
I think it's a number, Joe, that can help. That just hey, most people can get through the next month with less than 10,000. Over 10,000, you don't need that. We'll take that.
Yeah, and again, it could be less, but I'm going to say 10,000 or under. Hey, you're probably going to be okay. Anything over that, there's going to be a chart. I say there's a board. There's really not going to be a board per se. It's just a chart. Oh, anything between $10,001 to $19,999, right there, from $20,000 to $40,000. In this chart, it's going to tell them how much money you get. Like I said, anything over $250, they're taking it. The rest of it, based on this, and they're going to look at it and be able to say, well, we think you can survive on X. Especially those of you, man, you got 200,000. Let's just say you're smart. Hey, I'm under 250. I got 225,000 in my bank account. And I've had it in that bank account for the last 5 years, 10 years. Well, they already know. Well, you really don't need it then, do you? Because you didn't do what we wanted, which was for you to spend it all. But since you didn't do that, like Jason said during the Great Depression, insurance companies were writing IOUs. That's what you're going to be left with. Hey, you know what? We'll give you got 225,000 in here. We're going to give you 25. But the other 200,000, here's an IOU. And here's the bad part about that. The real bad part is that's when things are really going to be on sale. That's when you really want to take that $225,000 and start buying stuff.
Joe, some people listening will be thinking, well, who's going to put up with that? Who's going to stand for such a thing? And we know with coronavirus, people are standing for a lot. But think about it in a crazy economic situation, and things are bad. I mean, look at just do the baby formula. Let's pretend there's no baby formula at all, zero, not empty shelves or close to empty shelves. None. Babies are actually going to die, right? Under that situation, like, well, we all need to band together for these unprecedented times, and we'll give you an IOU and you'll get it back. And that's how they disguise it, Joe, and everyone will accept it.
Well, and this is the point. The laws are already there in place to do this.
Correct.
This is what Dodd-Frank did. This is what a bail-in actually means.
It's legal.
Exactly. And let's face it, the bank is closed. Who are you going to yell at? Right? And it's not going to be a debate. You're not going to be, well, I'm going to plead my case and I'm going to sue them. That all sounds wonderful. With what money? Right? And good luck. I mean, eventually it'll go through the Supreme Court in 3, 4, 5 years down the road. But again, they're going to put the word emergency in it. And the Supreme Court's going to say what? Well, it was an emergency. Right? It had to be done. Just like all the other rules. Just think about the Freedom of Information Act request. That all of a sudden we're supposed to know about 2 years later that even the Federal Reserve went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, okay, since you said so, they're going to have to wait another decade to find out what you really did. That's the reality. Those are the facts. I would venture to say, I don't know, the bank account may be in a real true financial emergency, is probably the least safe place. But then again, who am I? What do I know? 800-951-0592. I knew inflation wasn't transitory. I knew gas was going to $5. Man, I'm a pretty smart guy. We'll be back. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. Wall Street is mixed. The Dow's up 40. The S&P and the NASDAQ are actually in negative territory. Gold's up 5, kind of stabilizing here at 18.13. Silver up 50 cents today, 21.50. Again, stabilizing here. U.S. Silver Eagles, we continue to be the cheapest in the country. They're $720 a roll. That puts us at about a buck and a half less than anybody else out there. Some of them get close to this. Some of them get close. But you have to buy 3 cases. You got to buy 1,500 Silver Eagles. Where here we give you that price if you buy 20. Just a roll of Silver Eagles, more or less 3 cases. $720 a roll on silver here. Just think about how inexpensive that is compared to where we were just 10 days ago. I don't want to call it the bottom because I've been getting burned here, but at least it appears stabilizing here. And I think once we get back to focusing on economic data versus the Fed, we're going to see gold and silver rally right back. 800-951-0592, and I still got 20s at 21.35. A quick look at crude oil. Up another $2, about 112, 113. Natural gas, $8. Unleaded gas, man, it just doesn't stop here. 404 now. That's the highest I've seen it at least today. That is on the wholesale side. That's gas right now. 404, 405. That equates at about 525 to 530 here in Arizona. But remember, those crack spreads are so big. Jason, that actually could be even a little bit. I could be understating it there. And I actually expect oil to continue to rally through Labor Day or Memorial Day. I'm sorry. That's
right, Joe. And at the price of Silver Eagles that you've got, I mean, you were almost buying them for that much for a short time a few weeks ago, and we were trying to
think about this. What, about 3 weeks ago? We were paying $34 an ounce on Silver Eagle. So it really is a good opportunity. Silver at least starting to showing signs of stabilizing. Remember, I think it was, Friday? Silver touched 90 ounces to an ounce of gold, which just really meant it was significant. For me, most of you that listen to me for any length of time, I think 65 ounces is fair value. Right now, the ratio, you need 85 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold. That tells me buy it and buy it as you can. We also still have half dollars at $2.40 a roll, and again, we're the cheapest in the country on those as well.
Yeah, and let's illustrate that one more time. A couple of weeks ago, we were buying for $34, and today you can buy at $36. That's pretty incredible, Joe. That's even for all the stuff you've done over the years, you and Eric before you. That's pretty extraordinary in that time frame.
Yeah, it really is a great opportunity to buy some more at a lower price. And so many things we didn't even get to talk about today. Lloyd Blankfein, former CEO of Goldman Sachs, talking, listen, very, very, very was the words that he used. Very, very, very likely recession is coming. And again, I guarantee. I think it's worse than recession. Patriot Radio News Hour.